My name is Amar and I am associated with UniNets more than 5 years. I'm taking here different batches for Cisco ISE, for CCNP, and for load balancer, firewall. I have a work experience around 15 year, 15 plus now, and I'm working professional somewhere, right? There I'm managing implementation part. I'm part of implementation team. So earlier I used to manage network and security things. Now I am part of cloud team in that organization, and now I'm managing the cloud implementation. In this demo, we are going to cover about Cisco ISE. So if I talk about Cisco ISE is a network access controller, right? And this is one of the network access controller product from the Cisco. So if I talk about course content that we would cover in this Cisco ISE, so we are going to cover, introduction to Cisco ISE and its architecture and deployment. We would cover Cisco ISE policy enforcement part. We would cover web authentication and guest services. And further, we would cover Cisco ISE profiler, Cisco ISE BYOD, Cisco ISE endpoint compliance services. And finally, we would cover working with network access devices. So if I talk about Cisco ISE architecture or overall network architecture, how Cisco ISE works. So as I mentioned, this is the network access controller. That means any device which want to access the network, right? So we can control the access of that devices using Cisco ISE. So suppose if you don't have a Cisco ISE and somebody want to connect to your network, so without any authentication on the switches or router, user can connect, right? But if you have a Cisco ISE, you can control who can access the network and who cannot. So in this diagram, you can see if you are using a Cisco ISE, so there would be four terms is going to be used over here. Supplicant, which is endpoint device, authenticator, which is your switches or wireless LAN controller, authentication server, which is your Cisco ISE, and finally you have identity store. You might have LDAP or you might have a certificate based system, which is PKI. So take an example. If user want to access a network, right, which is supplicant over here, user is going to supply authentication data to the authenticator using EAP protocol or MAP system. Okay, and this wireless access device or wired access device, they are going to send that authentication to the Cisco ISE, which is configured as a radius. Okay, so using radius protocol, they supply that authentication data to the Cisco ISE. Cisco ISE validate the data, and if the data is fine, okay, then it is going to allow the user to access the network. If data is not fine, then it is going to deny the user to access the network, right? How it is going to allow or deny? It is going to make the changes on switches ports or wireless LAN controllers, okay, and accordingly it is going to allow or deny the user to access the network. If I talk about authentication data, so it is going to validate the authentication data with identity store. You might have a Microsoft Active Directory or you would have a certificate server from where it is going to validate the authentication data that is supplied by the supplicant. So using Cisco ISE, you can control your network access, right? If any random person want to connect to your network, okay, first of all, they have to prove their identity. Once identity has been proved, then you are going to authorize them that what they can access and what they cannot access. So overall, we can say this is a network access controller. Okay, it works based on two protocol. One is a radius and other is a TACAS. Radius is used for data plane access. Okay, and TACAS is used for the management plane access. So when I talk about management plane access, for example, somebody want to make changes on the switches or router, you are going to use TACAS server for AAA authentication, authorization, and accounting. And Cisco ISE is going to authenticate that user, that what command they can run on the switches, router, or firewall, and what they cannot. If you just want to understand more about the course content and the exam section, that what is the course content and how you can appear to the exam, so you can refer to our this page where you can see over here that this is the Cisco ISE training page, and there you can see the information, course content. Okay, so if I talk about prerequisite for the Cisco ISE, so you would have a basic understanding of networking, right? You should be aware about the Cisco ISE, Cisco iOS, Cisco AnyConnect, and you should be able to understand Microsoft Windows operating system function. So basically, if I talk about exam, this is twice exam. So this is a part of CCNP security, right? And this is overall the course content. This is the CCNP security paper that you have to clear to be expertise in the Cisco ISE. Now I will talk about the lab. So this is the CCNP security SIAS lab. And here you can see that this is the Cisco ISE device. If I turn on this, turn on the switch, turn on the management PC, turn on the Windows server, turn on the router. Yeah, I should be able to access all these devices. You can see the ICE is asking for login. Yeah, let's configure it from beginning. So whenever you are accessing the Cisco ISE first time, okay. So like this is Cisco ISE I'm accessing first time. I need to run setup command to configure it. I would run setup command and it would be asking few information. For example, it is asking host name. So I would put host name ICE 1. Then it is asking IP address. I would put 10.0.0.1. This is the management IP address. It is asking subnet mask, that is 255.255.255.0. It is asking default gateway. You can put like this 10.0.0.254. DNS, UniNets 123.com. I'm putting primary server. I'm putting, let's say, 8.8.8.8. Secondary server, I'm putting, not putting anything. Say no. NTP server, I'm putting default. And another NTP server, I'm saying no. Enter time zone, I'm putting UTC. Enable SSH, I'm putting yes. Enable username admin, and then password, I'm putting test. at 123 test at 123, and now it would start the configuration. It is going to turn on the network interface. It would try to connect to the gateway, it would try to connect to the name server, and then it would try to connect to the secondary name server. So it is currently it is not able to connect to the gateway or NTP server. I'm not saying it should retry. I'm just ignoring that, and I'm just going with the basic configuration.